repeated, as though the word itself was a fragile dream she'd long buried. Jake nodded, his eyes glistening under the candlelight. "Yeah," he said, voice thick with emotion. "Ain't much left in this world, but what's mine is yours. Always was." Outside, the snow fell harder, but inside, something began to thaw. The long-forgotten warmth of family, of forgiveness, of a chance to start again. Dawn came slow and pale, painting the snow-covered plains in soft gold. The small cabin stood silent behind them as the wagon creaked to life. Anna sat beside Jake, her boys wrapped in blankets on the back seat, their cheeks flushed from the morning chill. She hadn't slept, not from fear, but from the strange warmth that had returned to her heart. For years she had carried the weight of loss, of survival, of loneliness. But now, as the horses' hooves crunched through the snow, it felt like the world was shifting, just a little. Jake held the reins steady, his eyes on the horizon. The mountains ahead looked endless, but for the first time they didn't seem so cruel. "You sure about this?" Anna asked quietly, her voice carrying that familiar mix of doubt and strength. "Ain't no shame in turning back," Jake said, his tone gentle. "But I figured you and the boys been walking alone long enough." She studied him, the lines etched deep into his face, the scar on his jaw, the quiet steadiness that had once made her feel safe. "You changed," she said softly. Jake smiled faintly. "War'll do that. So'll regret." The wagon bumped over a frozen rut, and the younger boy stirred awake, yawning. "Where we going, mister?" he asked sleepily. Jake turned, a faint smile in his eyes. "Home," he said simply. "To a place with more than wind and frost. To a warm fire, some stock, and a future worth building." As they rode, Anna watched the land roll out before them. Endless plains of white, the sun rising higher, melting frost from the old wagon boards. It felt almost like watching the past disappear behind them, mile by mile. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered after a while. Jake shook his head. "Don't. Just start living again. That'll be thanks enough." Hours passed. The boys began to laugh softly in the back, tossing snow at each other, their joy echoing like bells across the frozen quiet. Jake looked at them through the rear mirror of his mind. Two kids who had every reason to be broken, still finding a way to smile. That's when he knew he'd done right by coming back. By late afternoon, they reached a small valley where smoke rose from a half-built homestead. Jake slowed the horse. "Ain't much yet," he said. "Roof leaks, fence needs work. But it's a start." Anna stared, her breath catching. "You built this?" He nodded. "Been at it since I found out you were alive. Figured one day I'd bring you home." The boys jumped down, their laughter filling the air. Anna stood beside Jake, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. "You waited," she whispered. Jake turned to her. Snow whispered against the wooden walls of the small cabin, its soft flakes glistening under the fading twilight. Inside, the single flame of a candle flickered weakly on a rough wooden table, illuminating the weary faces of a widow and her two sons. The woman's hands trembled as she divided the small portion of cold stew between the boys, pretending not to notice her own hunger. The eldest boy, hardly 10, pushed his bowl toward his little brother. "You take it, I'll be mad if you don't eat," he murmured, his voice too old for his age. Outside, the wind howled through the valley like a ghost mourning the forgotten. The door creaked open, and in stepped a man, tall, broad-shouldered, his hat dusted white with snow. His boots thudded heavy against the frozen boards. The family froze. The woman's eyes darted up, her heart pounding. She hadn't seen him in years, not since the war took everything from them. "Evening, ma'am," the cowboy said, voice low and gravelly. His breath came out in small clouds as he shut the door behind him. "Evening, boys." The youngest stared at him with wide, uncertain eyes. The man's gaze fell on the table. The flickering candle, the tiny portions of food, the thin hands holding spoons that trembled more from cold than fear. He stepped closer, the floor creaking under his weight. The widow rose, her body tense. "You best turn around, mister," she said quietly. "Ain't got nothing here worth taking." The cowboy didn't move. He took off his hat, brushing snow from it. "Didn't come for nothing," he replied softly. "Just came to see what's left of the woman I failed." The widow's eyes filled, though she kept her chin high. "You got no right coming back here," she whispered. "You left us when the world fell apart." The cowboy's jaw tightened. "I didn't leave, Anna. I got called to fight. By the time I came back, the homestead was ash, and word said you'd gone east." He looked around the one-room cabin, the frost-bitten window, the threadbare blankets, the shoes worn through. His heart sank like a stone in a river. "Guess I found you west instead." The silence between them was thick, heavy with years of pain and pride. The candles sputtered, and for a moment the flame seemed to bow in the cold draught, sneaking through the walls. The cowboy stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "This ain't right. You and the boys living like this." Anna shook her head, her voice breaking. "It's all we got, Jake. Ain't no one coming to save us." He stared at her for a long moment, then set his hat down on the table. "Maybe no one's coming," he said quietly. "But I did." His eyes softened as he looked at the children. "Boys, get your things," he said finally, the words steady and firm. "You're coming home." The room went still. The older boy's eyes widened, half in disbelief, half in hope. The younger clutched his mother's sleeve. "Ma?" he whispered. Anna looked at Jake, her lips trembling, tears threatening to spill. "Home?" She, eyes full of quiet truth. "Some things," he said softly, "a man don't stop waiting for." As the sun dipped low, the family walked toward the house, together this time. The candle in the cabin they'd left behind had gone out, but a new fire flickered here, brighter, stronger.